Hi, how are you doing? As you can tell, I have been on a hiatus for 3 months, which means I'm 3 months behind on wrap-ups. And I did slow down reading a little bit, but I still read quite a lot in those 3 months. So we're gonna go over what I read in the past 3 months in this video. I'll have timestamps down below, so you can check out my thoughts on each book as you want to see it. But yeah, I won't be spending a lot, I'll be going through these books relatively quickly to keep this from being too long, because monthly wrap-ups are already really long videos. I don't know how that's gonna go for 3 months, but we're gonna get through this. I am gonna be talking stats for every month just because I think that's interesting. So in October, I read 8 books in total, which amounted to 2,227 pages, which is an average of 278.37 pages per book, and an average of 71.83 pages per day. For format, I read 3 books. I own 2 ebooks, 2 galleys from NetGalleys, and 1 library book in October. This is not fun, but for star ratings, I had 4 2 stars, 2 4 stars, and 2 5 stars, which is an average rating of 3.5, which is still pretty decent with those 4 2 stars. For age range, I read 1 young adult novel and 7 adult novels. And then for genres, we have 2 contemporaries, 2 fantasies, 1 graphic novel, 2 paranormal, and 1 non-fiction book. Let's just get through the list with first Below Zero by Ellie Hazelwood. If you remember, maybe at the end of September, I read the first 2 novellas in the feminist novella series. This is the last one. I gave it 2 to 5 stars. Did not like this one. I really don't like the main character, and I just didn't buy the romance, and it's a novella, so if I don't attach to either of those 2 things, there's not much else to really like. Then I read The Tyrant's Tomb by Rick Riordan, which I gave 4 to 5 stars. This is the 4th book in the Trials of Apollo series. I really liked it. I thought it took the series in an interesting direction. The first half of the book, I felt like it was a little bit slow, but like the ending really made up for it, and I am very excited to see where this is all going to conclude in the last book. Then I read Monstress Volume 1, Awakening by Marjorie and son of Takeda, which I gave 4 to 5 stars to. This was a reread. I originally read the first 2 volumes of the series a while ago, and then in October I was planning on rereading those 2 volumes and then reading all of the other volumes I own, which isn't everything, but it is a couple more. But I did not get around to that. I only reread the first volume, and I still really liked it. I think this is such an interesting world and an interesting storyline to follow, but in this first volume it's very much like introductory, and there's still so many questions left. Then next I read the Ex Hex by Erin Sterling, which I gave 2 to 5 stars to. I just really didn't like this book. Didn't really connect with the characters. Didn't really like the romance. I didn't think there was any chemistry between them. The plot was also really boring, and then towards the ending I got really high stakes and really dark, while the rest of the book was very light and fluffy and fun. So that also just kind of bothered me, that tonal shift. Then next I read It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, which I gave 4 to 5 stars to. This one destroyed me. I picked it up because of the hype, as everyone was rereading it in anticipation for It Starts With Us, and as that was being released, and I finished it actually the day before the sequel was released. I still need to read that as well. But I read this in one sitting at a time where I just wasn't reading a lot, and I was so involved, so engaged by the story, and like I said, it emotionally destroyed me. I sobbed. And then next I read Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young, which I gave 2 to 5 stars to, as a galley from NetGalley. I just didn't like this book. I have heard some hit or miss things about this book since reading it. Before that, I'd only heard good things about it, but I don't think anything happens in this book. I didn't really like the way it was written, and it wasn't the fantasy. The fantasy element of it was definitely an afterthought. And then next you have The Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling, which I gave 2 to 5 stars to. Another guy I got from NetGalley. This is the sequel to the Ex Hex, and I think if you like the Ex Hex, you really like this one as well, because they're copy paste. Different characters, a little bit of a different main storyline, the romance exactly the same. So do not want surprise, I also did not like this book. And then lastly for October, I read I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennette McCurdy, which I gave 5 stars to. This is Jennette McCurdy's memoir. It's been everywhere since it's been released. In October I finally got a chance to pick it up, immediately started reading it, and I absolutely loved it. It's so good, and if you haven't read it yet, definitely check it out. And we've already reached November. In November I read 11 books, which amounted to 3,480 pages, which is an average of 216.26 pages per book and an average of 116 pages per day. I read 2 books I owned in November, 1 ebook and 8 galleys from NetGalley. Then I read 2 2 stars, 1 3 stars, 6 4 stars and to 5 stars, which is an average rating of 3.72, which is really high. Then we have an age range divided from middle grade to YA and 8 adults. And then for genre, we have 8 contemporary books, 1 non-fiction, 1 fantasy, and 1 historical. The first book I read in November is Never Ever Getting Back Together by Sophie Gonzales, which I gave 5 stars to, and I gave and was a galley from NetGalley. Sophie Gonzales wrote my favorite book of all time, one of my favorite books of all time, which is Perfect on Paper. So I was really excited to get into this one, which is a sapphic YA rom-com, and it's so cute and it's so great. And I really loved all of the other contestants on this reality show. I thought I created like for full atmosphere around everything, but the romance was everything in this book. Highly recommend you go check it out. Then I read the Heartstopper Yearbook by Oseman, which I gave 5 stars to. This is just like this companion piece to the Heartstopper graphic novel series. And yeah, if you're a huge Heartstopper fan, I highly recommend this. It's a lot of fun. But like, of course, if you're not a Heartstopper fan, this is nothing for you. It's just like a companion to the series. Then I read Kiss Her Once For Me by Alison Cochrun, which I gave 5 stars to. It's a guy I got from NetGalley. This is one I didn't know going in. It was a Christmas romance. It is. I liked it, but also, I don't know. I also had some issues with it. I would have liked a little bit more of the marriage of convenience. I feel like we got very little of that. And then I also just think that the conflict they ended up having at the end just made me like not root for them to get back together anymore. But overall, I did enjoy my time reading it. And then I read Mistakes Were Made by Teri Wilson, which I give it 5 stars from the guy from NetGalley. This is another sapphic rom-com. And I did not gel with the writing of this one. I didn't like the writing. It felt so impersonal to me. I don't know how to explain it. I didn't like the writing, and that caused me to not like the book. Like, I didn't gel with it. And then I read Your Mean One Magic Prince by Timothy Janovsky, which I gave 5 stars to, and the guy I got from NetGalley. Not a whole lot happened in this one. It is a cute romance at the center of it, and I liked the actual character struggle. Like Magic Prince, he does go through some stuff in the book, and I really like how that was tackled. But overall, just like not a whole lot happened in this book, and it was quite boring to read at times. Then I read Once Upon a Royal Christmas by Teri Wilson, which I gave 5 stars to, and the guy I got from NetGalley. This very much is like a Hallmark Christmas movie in book form, and that's why I enjoyed it. It's like very cheesy, it's very corny, it's over the top sometimes, but it was a blast to read. And then next I read The School for Good and Evil by Soman Chainani, which I gave 5 stars to. How do I talk about this book? I really enjoyed it. Let's just say that. I really love Sophie. I love the world. I think it's so interesting. I love the school, like the whole setting. I like the writing. The only thing that I just like I didn't like is certain messages in this book. Then I read Shipwreck by Olivia Dade, which I gave 5 stars to, and it was a guy from NetGalley. I thought this was so much fun. This is again one that kind of like the third conflict ruined things a little bit for me. I did not really like how that was played out. It felt very hypocritical from one of the characters, and I didn't like it. But for the rest, I really enjoyed it. I read this so quickly. I just absolutely flew through it. I was addicted to it. I really love the fandom aspect that the book plays into. There's also like a slow burn as it takes place over like 6 years, even though we have like a time jump in this as well, so we don't get to see all of those 6 years. But I thought that was really well done as well. And yeah, I enjoyed it. In fact, I enjoyed it so much that immediately after finishing that, I started reading Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade, which I gave 5 stars to. This is the first book in that series, but like it's a companion series, so you don't have to read them in order. And I actually like this more than Shipwrecked, but I still give it 25 stars because again, I didn't like that. I felt like I really did not like how that played out. For the rest, again, I love this plays more into like actual like fandom culture, like with fans and fanfic writing especially, which I really love. I really love the dynamic between the 2 main characters. I love the 2 main characters separately and their separate journeys, and the romance was just really cute. And then I read Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan, which again I gave 5 stars to, and it's a guy I got from NetGalley. This is a very hard-hitting second chance romance, and yeah, it's a very emotional book because they have to go through a lot of shit to be able to get together. Like, they went through a lot of shit, and now they have to work those problems out that they have. You know, you don't divorce for no reason, you know, so they have to work through a lot, and therefore it can be very difficult to read. Even though I highly recommend this book, definitely look at the content warnings because it gets very heavy at times. The only reason why this wasn't a 5 star for me is because I feel like this one didn't get like such an emotional reaction out of me as it probably should have because of the subject matter I was discussing. And then next I read The Rake Mistake by Erica Ridley, which I gave 5 stars to, and I got from NetGalley. This is just a fun heist novel, and technically it's like a novella in between another series by Erica Ridley that I have not read. I was a bit nervous about that at first, but you really can perfectly read this without reading the series. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. Next, we got December. We're almost there. In December, I read 9 books, which amounted to 2,934 pages, which is an average of 326 pages per book and 94.64 pages per day. I read 1 book I own, 1 ebook, 5 dollars from NetGalley, and 2 library books. Then for my star rating, I have 3 2 stars, 4 3 stars, and 2 5 stars, which amounts to an average rating of 3.11, which is really low. We have 2 YA books and 7 adult books. And then for genre, I have 1 historical fiction, 4 contemporaries, 2 mystery thrillers, and 2 fantasies. So the first book I read is The Modiste Mishap by Erica Ridley, which gives 5 stars to I got from NetGalley. This is the second novella that goes with the Rake Mistake. And I really like this, and I was fun. This one has a different main character than the first one, and I didn't vibe with this main character as much as I did with the first novella, but again, it was a fun high story. Next, I read Love in the Time of Serial Killers by Alicia Thompson, which I gave 5 stars to. This is again I got from NetGalley. This one, I heard a lot of mixed things about it. I saw some people absolutely love it, and some people really didn't like it and like DNF'd it and stuff. And I kind of like fall in the middle, where there's things I really enjoyed about it, but also things I don't like about it. I liked the romance, I liked the writing, I liked the overall setting. I really actually kind of liked the true crime references to everything. I thought it was, but I really didn't like her main character. That she was very immature, very obnoxious, and just very selfish. And I really did not like her. Then next, I read Secretly Yours by Tessa Bailey, which I gave 5 stars to. Again, I got from NetGalley. This one comes out February 7th. I read this a little bit ahead of time because I wanted to read something that I knew I was gonna love, and for some reason I knew I was gonna love this one, and I did. This one is a really cute romance. It's a rom-com. It also has some very hot and steamy moments. And like the sex scenes are like alright, but like the sexual tension between them like had me hot and bothered. I really love our 2 protagonists. I really love the setting of like the vineyard. I thought that was really interesting. And yeah, I just absolutely flew through this. I loved it so much. And next, I read King of Wrath by Anna Hwan, which I'll give 5 stars. Another one I really loved. This one I also did not really expect to love as much. I expected to enjoy it, but I ended up falling in love with it. I really liked the dynamic between the main characters. The romance was really well done. I loved their separate journeys. Even though I thought it had conflict coming from like 10 miles away, I actually thought the fact that seeing it coming helped with its emotional impact. And then there was also just like amazing groveling done for it to get resolved. Like it wasn't just resolved in 1 2 3. It genuinely like took a lot of effort, and I really like that. Then next, I read The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley, which I give 5 stars to. Oh, this is a sad one because I actually really enjoyed it in the beginning. I thought the setup was really interesting. I really liked the setting of like the apartment building and everyone being kind of a little bit shady living there. I really loved that atmosphere. And then we just went downhill. Some more and more things got revealed. I wasn't liking it as much. I just didn't really think a lot of the reveals made sense. I didn't really like the direction the story ended up taking. I despised every character by the end of it, and I really did not like it. And next, I read Valiant by Holly Black, which I gave 5 stars to. What to say about this book? I enjoyed it. I thought the story was very interesting. It is a little bit edgelordy, but that's something I found with this entire series so far. But it's the second book in the Modern Fairy Tale series. It follows a different protagonist in the first book though, but I really liked it. It mainly revolves around like outcast fairies and that world, and I think that was really interesting because it feels much more like closer to real life because they are integrated into like everyday society, and I thought that was really interesting. My main problem with this book is just that the characters are very one-dimensional, which kept me from fully getting attached to them and also fully getting involved into the story. Then I read The Last Party by Claire McIntosh, which I gave 5 stars to, and is I got from NetGalley. When I started reading this, I immediately did not like our 2 protagonists. We follow 2 protagonists who are detectives, and I hated both of them immediately. The only reason like I kept reading is because I thought the mystery was interesting, and it was for a really long time, and then it just goes over the rails again. It just like nosedives. Reveals just were terrible and imply terrible things. Then next, I read Ironside by Holly Black, which is the 3rd book in the Modern Fairy Tale series. I gave 5 stars to, and this is so sad because it's kind of been my favorite in this series. I feel like the side storylines in this book are so interesting, and we get to this point where we are being a little bit more attached to these characters, and I was really rooting for some of them. But then our main character, Kai, is just so annoying, like so annoying. Most immature, selfish, I don't know, dumb person that I've read about in a really long time. It was so painful, and her storyline wasn't as interesting as the side storylines going on, but then we had to like focus on it and see her make dumb decision after dumb decision after dumb decision, and I was just like, no. And then lastly, I read The Key to My Heart by Leah Lewis, which I gave 2 out of 5 stars to, and I gave 2 of Trina Galley. This one I feel very conflicted about because I like elements of it and there's elements of it I didn't like. Let's start with things I like. I really like the discussions around grief. I really like the romance. I really love how that played out and how it was like very slow. Just I didn't really necessarily like the inner monologue. I have nothing against the main character, I really liked it, but I just, the way the inner monologue was written was just very exhaustive because she just like overthought everything. And on top of that, I feel like there are some friends in here from our main character that are very toxic friends and very selfish, and just I did not like them at all. And for some reason the author towards the end was like, oh, let's just let them say, oh, I'm so sorry for treating you badly, and then like PPFS again, even though like they barely recognize the fact that they've done anything wrong. Didn't like that. And yeah, that was everything I read these past 3 months. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it's not too long. Who knows? Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of these books if you've read them, as well as some of the books you read these past 3 months that you feel like you need to tell me about. And yeah.
Here I am again, the same old situation. What does the